Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be reviewing the Juan Peña Natural Processed Ecuador from Sweet Bloom Coffee Roasters. And there's the bag right there. And Sweet Bloom based out of Lakewood, Colorado, and for anybody that's newer to the channel, they're the roaster we grew up with, the roaster we're most familiar with, and easily one of our favorite coffee roasters in the world, so that's why they feature so much on this channel. They probably have the most reviews of any coffee roaster on this channel. The reason we were so interested about this coffee is actually a number of reasons. The first being, we've always found Sweet Bloom to be probably one of the best value-priced coffee roasters in the world, because everything that they offer from the time they started was somewhere between $14 to $18 for a normal bag of coffee. And even their higher end stuff, for example, last year their Guatemalan Geisha was only $28 for a full bag of coffee, which these are really great price points for these coffees. So seeing something that was on the more normal end at a $22 price point, it was something interesting. It did catch our attention. And it turns out that this Juan Peña is actually it's a higher end coffee, especially for a lot of other coffee roasters. So even this $22 price point for this bag of coffee was still lower than you kind of see from other coffee roasters. Another thing about this coffee was it's not our flavor profile in the slightest bit. We don't love the wine and blackberry coffees. So it was interesting to see if one of our favorite coffee roasters could do better with a type of flavor profile we don't necessarily love. And last reason, it's actually been a while since we've had any Sweet Bloom coffees, so we actually desperately needed a Sweet Bloom coffee. This right here is day 18 of this coffee. All right, the recipe for this one, brewed at 16.67 to 1 water to coffee ratio. I believe that's the ratio they actually have on their website. They do have a brew guide for different brew methods on their website. They like lower temperatures, 200 degrees Fahrenheit. We like 203 degrees Fahrenheit for this coffee. Sweet Bloom is a light medium American for the roast profile. And with all of that out of the way, let's start discussing the coffee. Day 6, first impression of this coffee. Again, not our type of coffee. Pretty wine-like blackberry coffee at the very start. It was actually a lot more balanced though than a lot of the overly winey forward coffees. There have been so many coffees that just are wine dominant. And while this one is definitely the strongest with the wine and the blackberry, it wasn't overly dominant. There were some nice tropical fruits coming from this coffee as well, which was a very positive first impression. Day 7, again, we were impressed. And here's the thing about Sweet Bloom, going back to whatever your favorite roaster is and a roaster you're familiar with, it's just going to kind of remind you of why you like them so much. And that's exactly what happened. Pretty fresh and fruity tasting. Well-rounded with the acidity base, and it was just more pleasant on that day 7 experience. Day 8, coffee continued developing nicely. Sweetness more prominent, nice fruit sweetness, and it wasn't as overly winey as the day. The fruit and the sweetness were kind of increasing, while the wine and this blackberry acidity were kind of decreasing, making for a very nice coffee. Day 9 was the best day of the coffee. Tasted kind of like a chocolate cake with blackberry glaze, with some tropical sweetness to it. Lovely sweetness in the cup all around. Really enjoyed it. Day 11, the coffee was consistent in the sense that it was improving just overall. The coffee also wasn't overly acidic, which has been a nice thing because typically these winey coffees, these blackberry coffees, are overly acidic and overly powerful, but this one wasn't too bad. Day 14, chocolate component in this coffee was definitely there. Nice chocolate sweetness to balance out the fruit sweetness. Day 17, there are a couple of other notes, but they're pretty repetitive, so we'll just skip to day 17. The final assessment of the coffee, definitely wine-like, but filled with some very lovely tropical fruits as well. Some darker fruits, possibly some blackberry, possibly some plum, well, definitely blackberry and quite a bit of plum actually. Very pleasant, finishes off with a dark chocolate and wine taste, but it was never overly potent or strong. It was a little bit more rounded. The entire thing was a little bit more rounded. Got better over time. What we feel with a lot of these Sweet Bloom coffees is that you can describe them as pretty. It was a pretty cup of coffee. All right, let's go ahead and put up the tasting wheel so you can see what we're getting. And this isn't overly standard for a Sweet Bloom wheel. The sweetness at level 4 is pretty standard. That's been pretty consistent with almost all of their coffees, but the finish at level 4, yeah, it's definitely got a lasting finish. We can definitely taste on this day. The acidity a little higher than normal. Florals we didn't talk about much, but florals were pretty nice in this coffee. Berry fruit for the blackberry. You could possibly get some grape from this too, so berries, yeah. Citrus, stone fruit for correction 3, and the chocolate level 4 as it was a darker chocolate. The bitterness and the smokiness coming from that darker chocolate, a little bit of savoriness. Body at level 2. that might be a little higher. The cleanliness at level 2, it's not the cleanest cup of coffee, but it is natural. So the tasting though for the most part looks pretty in line with what we're getting on this day as well. That looks pretty good. As you can see, there's just nothing here to reach to 1. This coffee does have a lot of balance. It's a lot more versatile than a lot of other coffees, even a lot of other sweet bloom coffees. So our final thoughts and impressions of this coffee specifically, I think does speak a little bit to maybe your own personal preferences when it comes to coffee roasters. Because I feel like a lot of other coffee roasters that have done this style of coffee, the ones that tend to lean more towards those wine-like components, didn't like any of them. I'm not gonna say that we love this coffee. This one was probably on the lower end of our favorite sweet bloom coffees we've ever had. But that being said, you could still drink this coffee most days of the week over a bunch of other coffees, a bunch of other coffee roasters. So we definitely enjoyed this, and it does go to show that it's possible, I think, for most people to like any sort of flavor profile if it's done in a way that you enjoy. And Sweet Bloom does the type of coffees in a way that we've always enjoyed, and it probably helps that we've been drinking them since their birth of the company, so it probably makes a lot of sense. But yeah, overall, would say enjoyed it, especially given that it's not our specific type of coffee. Enjoyed it quite a bit. Type of person we would suggest this coffee to. Actually, a couple of people have already taken us up on this suggestion, but if you do like that wine-like and that blackberry acidity, those acidities are very prominent, but you don't want them overly dominant. If you want some very sweet components that come into it as well, a slight bit of tropicals, slight bit of the blackberry sweetness, the chocolate sweetness were both there as well, then this coffee seems like a pretty good fit for you. It's definitely going to be, this one probably a little skewed towards the more medium of that light medium American, but still really enjoyable. I think we're going to leave it at that. If you've by chance tried the Juan Peña, or if you've tried any of the other Juan Peñas from any of the other coffee roasters, we'd love to know your thoughts and opinions of this one or those, because I'm kind of curious how they all compare. If you enjoyed the content, give this video a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. This right here has been a review of the Juan Peña Natural Processed Ecuador from Sweet Bloom Coffee Roasters. Thank you for watching.